Hello there. Welcome in. Hour 3 on this Tuesday. Glad to have you. Thanks for sticking around, or thanks for just tuning in. Either way, I appreciate it, whether you're listening on your radio, online at XTRA Sports 1300.com, or you've downloaded the Extra Sports 1300 app. Of course, you can also watch the show on our social media platforms at Extra Sports 1300. You can't not find it. That's what I'll say. You can't not find this show. We are everywhere. And if you would like to participate, give me your thoughts on this Tuesday. I'm more than happy to have you. 719-247-1313. Perhaps you have a thought or two on the stories that are driving the show. All right, story number 1. Here's Broncos pass rusher Nick Benito on how those contract negotiations are going.
They're going well. I feel like there's been good communication on both sides. I think, it's just my agent. I feel like he's one of the best in the game. I feel like I got to trust what he's doing, and knowing how they feel about me upstairs, I feel like something will get done, but it's just a matter of when. And, until then, I just got to keep doing me.
When is the question with Nick Benito and when he will sign? And they, deadlines get things done, right? That's why deadlines exist. And it feels like there is a deadline coming up in a couple of weeks, which is the Broncos' first game of the season as they take on the Tennessee Titans. I can't imagine that either party would want this hanging over them. The Broncos this offseason have been able to get done the Cortland Sutton deal, the Zach Allen deal, and they've prided themselves on the ability to get these done. They've always said in their defense that Nick Benito might be the last one in line just because of how, and this is me saying it, not them, how complicated this is with, Nick Benito. I think the way that Sean Payton put it was he's getting to a different class or making a transition, right? He's not on a rookie deal anymore. Whereas Sutton and Zach Allen, it's just, hey, you already got a veteran deal in place. Let's just do another one. Maybe we give you a bump here, some extra guaranteed. With Nick Benito, he's entering, and this wasn't the word Sean Payton used, but I'll use it. He's entering a new stratosphere when it comes to his compensation. So that takes some time. I think that the Broncos are rightly wanting to put in some protections, given how small the body of work is for Nick Benito. But I think they want to get it done. Right? And Nick Benito has certainly shown that he wants to be on the field for the Denver Broncos. He hasn't held in. He hasn't voiced his displeasure. He's done everything that you would want him to do despite being in a contract negotiation. He showed up. He's performed. Pay the man. And I think both sides want to get a deal done, but there are some things that have to be ironed out. And I would be, at this point, the only thing that would surprise me is if Nick Benito was still on a lame duck contract when he steps onto the field against the Titans. That would surprise me. Deal done in the next hour, the next week, the next week and a half, this day before the Titans game. I could see all of it and it wouldn't shock me. But I do think that both parties would like to get a deal done before the season begins. And I think Nick Bonito, most of all, would like to have this put behind him, even though he was very chill about the whole thing. I think he wants that security and wants to have that before he steps out on the field for real. But positive signs being voiced there by Nick Bonito that he doesn't seem overly worried about it. And, some of these other players in contract negotiations have, even if they've tried to put on a brave face, have not done a good job of it. When I hear Nick Bonito today talk, I think he's supremely confident a deal is going to get done. But once the season rolls around and a deal's not done, maybe the tone could change. But right now, they haven't even hit their final preseason game yet. So that's the latest with Nick Bonito. Not heading for a divorce like Adam Schefter thinks that right now the Cowboys and Micah Parsons are heading for one. Although, as he put out, things could change. Yes, they could. And things could change with Nick Bonito. But right now, looks like everything's copacetic and a deal will get done sooner rather than later. Let's get to story number 2, which is also a football story, but not only indirectly about the Broncos. It's about their week 2 opponent in the Indianapolis Colts. They have named their starting quarterback, and their starting quarterback is Danny Dimes. Daniel Jones will be the starter in Indianapolis this season, not Anthony Richardson. And to me, this reminds me so much of what happened a few years ago with Vic Fangio and when he decided to start Teddy Bridgewater over Drew Lock. The best thing for the Denver Broncos probably would have been to see it through with Drew Lock. See what you got. Whether you believed you had something or you didn't believe you had something, he's the younger guy. He certainly wasn't a finished product. Invest in him, see where it goes. It's not like that Broncos team was going to win anything. But yet Vic Fangio went with Teddy Bridgewater, essentially bringing an end to the Drew Lock experiment. Why did he do that? Because while maybe investing in Drew Lock and letting him play would be the best thing for the long-term future of the Denver Broncos, it was not in the best interest of Vic Fangio's long-term future. And I think that's the decision Shane Steichen is making. Jim Irsay's daughter is now the owner. She may be, as many new executives tend to do, want to put their stamp on the organization. Easiest way to do that is to fire and hire a new coach. Shane Steichen might be on the hot seat right now. And his mindset is, I got to win as many games as possible. And right now, the guy that gives me the best opportunity to do that, as hard as it is for NFL fans to believe this, it is Daniel Jones. There is not an argument for Anthony Richardson to give the Indianapolis Colts a better chance to win this Sunday, if they had to win this Sunday, than Daniel Jones. And Shane Steichen is not willing to gamble his job on Anthony Richardson's upside anymore. We'll see if it works out. Didn't work out for Vic Fangio when he made the decision to go with Teddy Bridgewater. But to me, it's the same thought process. And we talk about, this understanding more so now than ever about how organizations fail quarterbacks versus us just labeling every quarterback that doesn't live up to expectations as a bust, as if they are solely the reason why they didn't work. Anthony Richardson's a great example of how the Colts messed this up. And two things can be true. Daniel Jones could be a more viable quarterback option for the Colts to win more football games this season than Anthony Richardson. And also, the guy now saying, I don't want Anthony Richardson, is also the guy that kind of screwed him up. Coming out of Florida, everybody was in agreement that Anthony Richardson could not play right away. He just didn't have the experience at the collegiate level, yet he was put out there. And he did some things wrong along the way. You can't ask out of a football, all this kind of stuff. I'm not saying Anthony Richardson is blameless, but it's like when somebody is as young as Anthony Richardson, and I mean that in terms of his age, but also in terms of his experience, you kind of blame the parent for the misbehavior. Did they thrust this guy into the line of duty too early when he wasn't mature enough as a football player and maybe as a man to take on that responsibility? And I think the answer is yes. They messed him up. Just like the Broncos, you could argue, did Drew Lock a disservice by changing offensive coordinators when they did. So whatever Anthony Richardson was going to be, he's probably not going to be that now. The best case scenario for Anthony Richardson's NFL career is gone. Because not only is Steichen going with Daniel Jones to start the season, he said himself, he's not going back this year. There's not the bye week will reassess things. He's like, no, Daniel Jones is my starter for the season. And on one hand, I can't blame him. But on the other hand, I absolutely can blame him because he's the one that put Anthony Richardson out there when he wasn't ready. So adjust your picks for week 2 accordingly. It will be Danny Dimes going against the Denver Broncos defense, not Anthony Richardson, as if that would change your mind one way or another. Let's go to baseball for story number 3.
Ground ball up the middle. This should do it. Around third. Here comes Tobar. Ball game over. Portobello is right. The Rockies 4. The Dodgers 3. The 10-game losing streak is history.
Rockies television on the call that 10-game losing streak was to the Dodgers. Just for a point of clarification, because the point of this story is that an occasion that should be celebrated. The Rockies downing the LA Dodgers, putting an end to this long losing streak. And also the fact that since July 4th, the Rockies have as many wins as the LA Dodgers. Somebody figure out what they're paying per victory. Because that normally would be cause for celebration. The demise of a Los Angeles-based team and the success of a Colorado team. Around these parts, that's a reason to celebrate. But when it's the Rockies, it hits a little bit different. Because they are not on a 10-game losing streak against all major league teams. Quite the opposite. They've been playing great baseball as of late. They've been winning, and now they are just 6 wins away with more than a month to go from surpassing the win total of last year's White Sox, which is the last thing that those diehard Rockies fans that were hoping for a brighter day and something to shock this organization into doing the right thing and making some big changes, that hope might be gone. Because if the Rockies don't lose more games than the White Sox did last year, then it's just another one of those 100-loss seasons, which have not phased the Colorado Rockies because they've been losing 100 games for the last couple of years. It's just another example of how this organization has put you, the fan, in the worst possible position, because you should be partying late into the evening that the Rockies were able to beat the LA Dodgers, and also dunking on Dodger fans who, despite having a payroll that is the GDP of not a small country, but like a well-developed first world European country, that they can't win more games in the months of July and August than the Colorado Rockies. That should all be cause to celebrate, but you can hear or read in your mind Dick Monfort's comments. We made the coaching change. We shook things up. Warren Schaefer came in, brought that energy. The players responded to him. They played well. We ended the season on a high note. We were not the worst team historically. So status quo moving forward. Warren Schaefer is now the full-time manager, and we don't need to make any changes to the roster. They just needed time. Right? That's what sucks. And that's how backwards that organization thinks, that they would be looking at last night as a sign that things are looking up, instead of, as the now fired manager of the Colorado Rockies would say, that's baseball. In no galaxy are the Rockies as good or better than the Dodgers. But the Dodgers are in a tailspin, and the Rockies are a little bit hot right now. That's all last night was. But that organization will seize on that as a reason to say we're doing it the right way. So the question on our Twitter account, at ExtraSports1300, are you mad that the Rockies are winning? That most likely they will blow right past last year's Chicago White Sox and not be the worst team in modern baseball history? And I'll take your thoughts on that, as well as the other two stories that are driving the show, at 719-247-1313. It'll be good to have college football back this weekend, but it's not back. I wish we would do something about this. Like either this is the first week of the season or it's not. I'm not saying every team has to be in action this weekend, but like this appetizer that they're throwing out there, like, don't get me wrong, I'll watch. That Iowa State-Kansas State game, I'm very intrigued by. And it's our first opportunity to see some of the teams in the Mountain West and other teams across the country. I mean, I'll watch, but like it would be better if the majority of schools were playing this week. Or, and I know this might be an unpopular take, no more week 0. I'm very much an kind of all or nothing proposition. Are we playing week 0 or are we not? The smattering of college football, it's like, again, I'll watch. But then next week it really gets going, right? CU, Georgia Tech. That'll be an interesting game right out of the gate. Some people are high on Georgia Tech with Hayes King as their quarterback. We'll get more into that certainly next week. And then, Air Force CSU getting going on Saturday. But the question that I don't think is really a question anymore in Boulder, Kaidon Salter's starting. And with Deion Sanders' comments the other day at, I think it was like their annual luncheon thing, and he said that the goal this season was to get Miss Peggy to a bowl game and win. Right? So winning the Big 12, is that really, I think it's a hope, but I think that the Buffs and Deion Sanders kind of know that in many ways this is a year of transition. And this is a year of not letting the bottom fall out of this program. And I just talked about it with the Colts quarterback situation. Like, they're thinking the same way, and they're like, we're going Danny Dimes. Now, little apples and oranges, because Juju Lewis's career isn't over if he doesn't play this year. Like, it seems to be, well, shouldn't say Anthony Richardson's career as a starter is probably over after this year. So it's a little bit different, but where it's similar is that I think that Deion Sanders wants to go with the veteran. And it's not like Kaidon Salter, I'm telling you, he's good. Like, this is not just starting a veteran for starting a veteran's sake. Kaidon Salter's a talented quarterback. And I do think there's reason to believe that he could be even better in some ways than he was at Liberty, given the supporting cast around him. But I've said, if CU wants to go all out to try and win the Big 12, then maybe you roll the dice on Julian Lewis and just see, because there's no doubt that as highly as I think of Kaidon Salter, that Julian Lewis is the bigger talent. But I think this is very much about being competitive, not letting the bottom fall out, continue progress, because I think that would be progress for this CU program. And I think it would answer a lot of the naysayers, like they don't have Travis, they don't have Shedeur, and they can still win football games. If they can get to a bowl game, if they can win that bowl game, that is a successful season given how much Travis Hunter and Shedeur meant to the program and how good they were at what they did. And while I think that CU more than Air Force or CSU is more of the boom or bust team in the state, I think there's a wider range of outcomes for CU than there is the other two Division I programs that we talk about on a daily basis. If Deion Sanders is able to keep the train on the tracks, and I think he will. I think that you'll look at this season with CU. I think the most likely outcome is CU's not playing in the Big 12 title game. They're not really sniffing the college football playoff. But given the year of transition it is, I think there's going to be a lot of really, I don't know, maybe for some people there's surprises, but a lot of good stories for this CU team and a chance, okay, we were able to maintain and now we take a step forward and next year is when we make our move. And I think that would be a fair way to look at Colorado over the next 2 years. But if Deion Sanders does at least that, or maybe a little bit more, you know what's going to happen. And if you watch First Take, you know what's going to happen because it happened today. That there will be national college football people that will be trying to pry Deion Sanders away from Colorado. And they would have more of a reason to make that case than either of the previous 2 years because it's like, well, he doesn't have the unicorn that is Travis Hunter. He doesn't have Shedeur. This season can really showcase Deion Sanders' coaching and his coach's coaching ability, but the talent they brought in via the portal and from the high school ranks, they're recruiting, and it would really be able to showcase that, hey, this is not just Deion Sanders bringing in his sons and Travis and having success. This is him selling the vision of what Colorado football will be and attracting talented individuals. Because I think that this roster, in order to even have the same level of success they had last year, has to be deeper and more well-rounded than they have been in years past. And if they showcase that, then it's like, man, Deion was able to win X number of games without Shedeur, without Travis Hunter. Imagine what he could do in the SEC. And again, I'm not making this up. It was talked about on First Take today. So, and that's, and what I would say to any Buffs fans that are like, oh no, because you don't want to think about probably losing Deion Sanders because you like what you've seen so far and you believe that he's going to get this team back to prominence because they're winning a lot of football games, not just relevance. They're relevant now. They're very relevant. But getting them back to prominence, you don't want to hear Paul Feinbaum and Stephen A. Smith trying to get him to Ole Miss or to Alabama or Texas A&M. But if this season goes well, in a season that a lot of people are down on what CU can do, the noise is going to be louder than it ever has been. Because this season could very much, if you believe it needed to be, legitimize what Deion Sanders is doing. I think if you watch this program closely, you already see that he's legitimized this program. And it's not just the fact that he had his sons or Travis Hunter. You see the improvement from year one to year two, in the trenches especially. But the amount of wide receivers that he has been able to bring into the program, and he's got some left, even though it seemed like all of them went to the NFL this year. It really has a chance to legitimize, like, no, Deion Sanders is just good at this. And he's building CU. But now, can you imagine what he'd be with the resources at other schools? That's going to happen, and that'll probably be louder than it ever has been if the Buffs have success this season. And I think they're going to be successful, not more successful than last season. But again, given the transition that they are going through, losing those two players, I think there's reason to think that this season will, even if it doesn't result in a Big 12 title game appearance, will be characterized as a successful season in Boulder. I didn't watch First Take, but of course, as most of those shows are, they're just products for social media to put a clip up there, and saw that. I'm like, yep, that's going to happen a lot more this year if Deion Sanders wins with this, what some people think is a ragtag group of football players. If you follow the program closely, then there's some dudes that could play anywhere in America on this CU roster. They've been building the talent pool over the last couple of years. I think you will see a more well-rounded Colorado football team this year. May not result in more wins than you saw last year, but I don't know that has to be the expectation. 719-24-7, 1313. Back after this. Right now, there are 3 rookie quarterbacks in the NFL that are being debated when they should start. We know Cam Ward's going to start right out of the gate week 1 against the Denver Broncos. But you have Tyler Shuck in New Orleans. And by the way, that quarterback competition today announced by Kellen Moore will continue into the preseason game against the Denver Broncos. So I know the Saints aren't your primary concern, but it's more than what San Francisco and Arizona have brought to the table in terms of intrigue to these preseason games. So the quarterback competition in New Orleans will continue. And then, of course, there's what's going on in Cleveland, where they have named Joe Flacco the quarterback to start the season. And now, because Jackson Dart, who I shouldn't say no one, it's gotten to the point that people are forcing Jackson Dart talk into their shows. The first week he was overlooked because of Shedeur. He's not overlooked now. And the conversation is, when should Jackson Dart start? And you and I went through this for years with the Denver Broncos, right? Whether it's Paxton Lynch, Drew Lock, Bo Nix, when is the best time? And I think really if you're the coach, you got to decide based on what you've seen, your evaluation. But from our standpoint, outside the eye test, there are 2 factors that normally come up. And I'm seeing these throughout these conversations, because I even saw something out of Cleveland today saying, why don't you just start Shedeur, Dillon Gabriel to start the season? Why are you even bothering starting Joe Flacco? It really depends on the experience of the quarterback, right? Bo Nix started week 1 because he had more starts under his belt than any quarterback we've ever seen come through the draft. I think there's a thought with Tyler Shuck as opposed to Shedeur. Maybe it shouldn't be that way with Dillon Gabriel, but Shuck, because of his age, how long he was in college, there's this idea that he's as ready as he's ever going to be, whereas Jackson Dart, Shedeur, maybe even Dillon Gabriel, for some reason, they're not ready or they're less ready. But I think what more plays into it that people aren't really discussing, how much do you believe in this quarterback? Because I think if you believe that whether it's Gabriel or Sanders or Dart or Shuck, that you believe they can actually be your team's answer for a franchise quarterback, you do not want to throw them to the wolves. And I'm noticing that there are far more people that want to protect Jackson Dart, that want to protect Shedeur, and maybe even to a lesser extent Dillon Gabriel, and everyone's like, throw Shuck to the wolves, who cares? Right? That's what's playing into it. If you believe, it's funny, if you believe that you have your next franchise quarterback, and there are exceptions to every rule, but I'm finding it with this crop of rookie quarterbacks, that there's it doesn't matter for New Orleans. And I could easily say, well, what does it matter for the Giants? They're going to be just as bad. But the thought is, there's no way the Saints have their quarterback of the future on the roster. The Giants might. So don't put Jackson Dart out there week 1. Let Russell Wilson go into the year. Let him deal with Washington, Dallas, Kansas City, and LA. And it's kind of the same thing with Cleveland. And I've brought this up. So I don't want to say I'm guilty of this. I don't know that there's anything to be guilty about. It's just all our opinions on things. But I've said this with Shedeur. I don't think he should start week 1. I don't think he's ready. But I also think that the Browns might have their starting quarterback of the future in him. So for me, there's a little bit of protecting that I want to do of Shedeur. And I don't want him. I mean, Cincinnati, fine, but Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit. Yeah, I don't think Shedeur's ready for that. And you worry about ruining a young quarterback. Even if you believe in him, it's a weird dynamic. But I think just what it is there are some quarterbacks that come out and they feel like you feel like they're ready to go, like Bo Nix last year. And there are some that you still believe in, but you're like, not right this second. I mean, that's what it is. Some guys are longer-term projects. Anthony Richardson, something that eluded the Indianapolis Colts brain trust. But I look at it with Jackson Dart, I just find it, I think more than anything, I just find it funny how no one is trying to protect Tyler Shuck. No one wants to protect Tyler Shuck. There's no chance that he could be the Saints quarterback of the future. You don't want to give him a soft landing spot, but you want to give Shedeur and Jackson Dart a soft landing spot? But then you look at the schedule and you go, okay, because really the Giants have the NFC version of what the Browns have. So Cleveland has Cincinnati, Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit. Giants have Washington, Dallas, Kansas City, LA. I would say that the Browns schedule is more difficult, but Giants don't have an easy road. And then where do you put in Jackson Dart? Where's the soft landing spot? So week 1 at Washington, if he's not ready for that, okay, but you saw Washington's defense last night against the Bengals. They're not anything to worry about. Then you have Dallas, okay, Micah Parsons. That would be somewhat worrisome. Kansas City's an elite defense. LA was a very good defense. And then you're like, ooh, New Orleans. And then you notice they have Philly, Denver, Philly. It's like if you're looking for a soft landing spot for Jackson Dart and you're the New York Giants, that's not until the last 4 games of the season. Washington, Minnesota, Vegas, Dallas. That's it. There's not a place that you could put Jackson Dart into this schedule and be more than a game away from playing a team you don't want a rookie quarterback going up against. And it's kind of the same thing with Cleveland. Cleveland will have down the stretch their last 5 games. Tennessee, Chicago, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. That feels like a soft landing spot for either Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. And with Tyler Shuck, I mean, okay, Arizona, no, but San Francisco, that's not easy. Seattle's really good defense. Buffalo's a good defense. New York has maybe the best defensive line in all of football, or the most talented anyway. New England, Chicago, Tampa. I mean, we all do it, but it's just like, where is actually the soft landing spot? People want to find it for Jackson Dart and Shedeur Sanders. They don't want to find it for Tyler Shuck. I feel for Tyler Shuck. I want Tyler Shuck to be put into the Saints lineup in a soft landing spot. So I will say, Tyler Shuck, you will start week 12 after the bye week. All 3 of them after the bye week. That's when we should see these guys. Cleveland will probably be earlier. Giants, I think that is when we'll see Jackson Dart. I think they'll go most of this season with Russ. And then New Orleans, people don't care. But I say start Spencer Rattler and give Tyler Shuck a chance. I mean, if you drafted him as high as you drafted him, you drafted higher than Gabriel or Shador. The Saints should want to protect this guy. We'll see, but that quarterback competition will continue in the preseason game. And that's coming up this weekend. Before I go, want to tell you about Low T Center. If you're constantly tired, you can't focus, you don't have the energy to do anything, that may not just be life wearing you down. That could be low testosterone. And here in Colorado Springs, Low T Center are the local experts that can help you turn it around fast. It all starts with a free testosterone test. Takes 15 minutes. You'll get results on the spot. And then if low testosterone is the issue, you're in the right place to get treatment. Most insurance is accepted, and you can choose between having your treatments at the clinic or at home. And here's a little bonus. If you refer a friend when you both start treatment, you'll get a $250 credit. So don't wait. At least if what I'm talking about is resonating with you, at least start with the free test, right? And the test isn't going to be free for long, so you can't drag your feet. FixMyLowT.com is the website to go to. That's FixMyLowT.com, and get started with the experts in Colorado Springs when it comes to treating low testosterone. That is Low T Center. It's been my pleasure to serve you. My thanks to Nate Kreckman for stopping by, talking some Mountain West football with me, and appreciate you tuning in. We'll do it all again tomorrow at 3 here on Extra Sports 1300.